So, do you remember, or do you have any sense of the first time you were aware of curlew, or is it something that's never been particularly, it's like they're there but not being very conscious of them?
I've always been conscious of the curlew actually, because they always remind me of lambing time. Because you spend a lot of time in your fields in lambing time, obviously, because we lamb everything outside, quite traditionally. And the curlew has always been sort of the background music to lambing time. Just the call of it, it's the first sort of sign of spring. I've always really enjoyed it. The first time you hear a curlew in the year, you think, oh, it's going to be lambing time soon, you'll be warming up, and it's great. So, I'm William Dawson. We farm at Bleakbank Farm, which is near Clapham. In the yard, I think it's about 850 feet above sea level, so it's not proper hill farm, but it's sort of in between. And I'm the fifth generation here. And we've been at this farm for about 100 years. We've just celebrated our centenary with a minute's silence about a year ago.
Hello, my name's Colin Price. I live here at Longbank Farm, Gersten, near Clapham. Farm with my dad, Alan, and our family's farmed here for 80 years. My granddad came here in 1943 and we farm dairy cattle and sheep, and we've been organic for 22 years.
And why did you decide to farm?
I've probably decided to farm a little bit because I'm already here. I think farming is very difficult for anybody to actually get into now. I mean, if you want a small farm, you're looking at 7 figures. So once you're in it, you're in it. You know, it's quite hard to get it out of your system. I think it's a bit like your own race in a way. I think farmers are their own identity, and it's just in you.
I'm really interested in what made you decide to become organic. Why?
Because late 1990s there was a big push on grants towards pushing organic conversion, and we were a small dairy farm, and we thought that the future of a small dairy farm was probably threatened in the big picture of things. So if you wanted to survive, you had to go for a niche market.
The way this works is presumably the land isn't as intensively farmed.
No, it's not. That's one of the things that organic system fitted what we were doing already. We didn't have a lot to change to fit the system.
Have you seen any change in the area? I mean, obviously on your own land, but in the area with numbers of waders? I mean, that I guess includes obviously lapwings, which were quite common around here. But obviously today we're talking more about the curlew, but both, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose you don't really notice something until there's a problem about it. And we never, I mean, we've always noticed curlews, but we've never thought about them because there always used to be plenty. It's only in the sort of last 7 or 8 years that you've started thinking, oh, the curlews are late. Are they actually coming this time? Are there any left? And I think that's really altered because it never was thought about. It was just, oh, the curlews are back, you know, there's loads of them, that's fine. But now it's a bit like, well, there's a pair here, but I don't think there's another pair on the farm, and if they don't come back, or if one of them doesn't come back, that's it. They're never coming back, and that would be very sad.
You still have obviously curlew and lapwing and other waders. I mean, in your lifetime, are they the same, or because obviously your dad again talked about how when he was a little boy there were literally eggs everywhere.
But I can remember people from Settle used to come in on all these farms along Eldreth and Gersten, and they'd be just coming for tewit eggs from like late February, March, and they'd just be walking the rigs and furrow pastures looking for tewit nests. A lot of them that had done it for years didn't clean nests out. They only took like, so there was 3 eggs, they'd take 2, leave 1, so your end tewit kept laying them. But there was a bit of when there was a vast amount of tewits everywhere, that sort of thing was sustainable because tewits lay eggs early, and then you get them frosts, and them eggs never hatch. And there's a an old saying that if somebody's not looking so good and they wake as a tiwit, that's because the old tiwits sit on nest and wait for them to hatch and wait for them to hatch, just go thinner and thinner till there's no left of them. But there was a method in that nobody really took tiwit eggs after middle of March, because then there was more, they let them sit on them and then they'd hatch. But as tiwits have dropped in numbers, for people to keep going with them eggs, that didn't work really, because they became as bad as crows then. Whereas folk blame crows now. That's only because crows are making an impact on it, because there's a lot less tiwits and curlews and such like. They've probably always taken eggs,
Yeah.
but there are more crows because there's less gamekeepers, less people who are willing to go out on wild wintry nights in February and March shooting crows in trees and woods like they used to do.
Is there something in the farming, or is it something in this area that's changed, or do you have any insight into that, or not?
I feel like things have changed quite a bit. When I was growing up, people used to be much more staggered in their taking of silage, for example. It used to be a couple of months' job really from start to finish. And now even the more traditional farms like to get it over and done in about a week or 10 days. And I think that's really came back to 2012. I always blame 2012 because that was a really bad summer. And everyone got a bit spooked, I think, because it rained for about 8-9 weeks. Since then, people have thought, well, if it's fine in June, you've got to take your grass because it might rain again all summer like it did in 2012. And some people didn't get crop that year, and it was very serious for a lot of little farms. And I think since then, it's like a rush. There doesn't seem to be any staggering anymore, and that has changed.
So do you think farming generally has speeded up?
Yeah, I do, because I think we're under a lot of... I mean, even our milk buyer, Arla, they put us under time pressure all the time. I mean, we have to meet targets now about carving our heifers younger so that they have a lower carbon footprint because we're not keeping them doing nothing for another year. Even silly little things like that, they're putting pressure on all the time. We have to make better silage because it gets analysed. I don't want to see the analysis of it. All those little pressures, they sort of build up all the time, so you're starting to get, you've got dates in your mind about, oh, we need to do this by then, those heifers need to be at the bull, that grass needs to be off, we need to get the sheep out of the meadows, whereas before it was like, oh, it's fine next week, should we do something? Yeah, there was less pressure.
Would you say there are sustainable farming practices that need to be brought in as well that might help the curlew and other waders?
It's hard to legislate for farming practices for that, because most of the farmers have that link to the countryside that they wouldn't want to knowingly stop them nesting. But there's a lot of farmers have invested heavily and they need to make a lot of money to survive, to pay the bank loan off, whatever they borrowed money for. And sometimes in that, you've got to put yourself into that man's shoes. You don't know, you can't tell another farmer what to do or change him till you've walked in his shoes and seen his situation. Every farm is absolutely different to the next farm. And most people, they know what they can do, and if they haven't bitten off more they can chew in what I've just said, they'll farm away on in a way that they want to keep a good lifestyle for the family and try and give everybody what they want. But when it comes down to that, back to that money thing, if he's struggling and he needs them 4 cuts of silo and he gets a contractor in, I'm afraid the poor old curlew is going to be way down on his list of worries. And that is where you mentioned this payment for it leaving a bit of ground where he knows that nest is. Well, every little helps like that. And I'm not saying it should be money driven, but I'm afraid that's a realistic world we're living in.
I agree. I mean, that's why obviously we've tried to get this grant, which is very much yourself and John Dawson who helped us come up with a figure, and along with Hilary at RSPB. You have curlews because you have low stocking levels and you don't cut. So we kind of know there is a way, possibly with the right money, that some farmers might be
Well,
encouraged to do similar.
it certainly shows on our farm that, because I have a certain block of land, I've like 50 acres of meadowland that we don't mow till the 1st of July, and that is where the majority of the curlews nest. And that is why I put those, they haven't gone to there because we were mowing it later, they were there to start with, and so we put those fields into that high level stewardship 10 years ago, and it's just we have kept a stable population of curlew. We've been organic, we have done studies where, because we're not using poor worms on our cattle and that, we do have more dung beetles and bugs and that all live in your cow muck on your fields, and them's all things that your little curlews eat.
We always thought that there was plenty of room for both, for nature and for farming, and I think that the curlew has proved that over the past 50 years there has been plenty of curlew here, and that's gone hand in hand with the farmed environment. They lend themselves very well to a farmed environment if it's done respectfully, and it is difficult now that government money is changing. Farming's not going to be subsidised in the way that it was, and that's going to put a lot of pressure on what is now good curlew habitat to be more productive for food production and not for curlew production, which is, it's a big shame really that that's just another pressure that's being heaped on farms.
I have a friend in Hampshire who's farmed and been a countryman all his life, and he says they have no wildlife at all.